What's going on, everyone? It is your friendly neighbourhood Gromit back again, and today I am going to rank the Kinks studio albums, specifically the albums ranging from 1964 to 1971. Now, I know that the Kinks did release a lot of albums after 1971, but it's my personal opinion. This entire video it's my personal rankings. It's not a set in stone fact that these are the rankings of the Kinks albums. But I think after 1971, the Kinks really went downhill. I don't want to start the video on such a bad note. The Kinks were shit after 1971. But yeah, I haven't either listened to most of those records, or I just don't rate them. And I'd rather do a ranking video where each album is good in its competitive listing, rather than have all those post 1971 Kinks albums right at the bottom, you know. But if I had to, I think that Schoolboys in Disgrace is probably the best out of a bad bunch of those albums. But we're gonna rank from the Kinks' first album up to Muswell Hillbillies, their 1971 release today. And to start off with, I want to talk about the reasons why you should never, ever, ever form a band with your family members. It is a absolute tragedy waiting to happen. And I'll put it this way. Right? I love my brother. I love all my brothers. I've got 3 brothers. Love them all. We all get along very well, and we all like each other. But I would rather have a pineapple shoved up my arse and pulled out my cock than have to spend 3 months in a sweaty van with my brother travelling across Europe, doing 4-hour-long shows every night in different venues. It would kill me, and I'm sure he'd say the same thing. And it's better off to do that kind of shit with friends that aren't blood relatives, so that if feuds do happen, it's not going to cause like a family emergency. You know, it's not going to be like a critical situation. You know, lots of unfortunate Christmas dinners and so on. But the Kinks obviously are a grave example of that. Ray Davies and Dave Davies despised each other, hated each other. And it's only recently that they've kind of made up, I guess. I mean, still probably awkward at the dinner table. But yeah, just don't make a band with your family members. I know it seems like a good idea because, you know, kind of, you're likely gonna have a loving family, and you kind of think like, oh, spending more time with the family and making money, but it never works out. Absolutely never. Just don't. So rant over. There's 9 albums in this list, and we're gonna start off with number 9. And because, like I said, these are the albums that I think are all great Kinks albums, the listings here aren't gonna, like, number 9 isn't like by any means an awful album. It's just the one that I like the least out of them all. And at number 9 we have the Kinks' Kontroversy. Now this album, by name only, is referring to the Kinks' chaotic 1965 tour of America, where they were literally banned from playing in the US for I think 7 years, because of fighting, and they were, you know, all getting pissed and on drugs and blah blah, you know, classic rock star stuff. But it ended up in them basically just being banned from the United States, which that's by name alone is only referring to that accident by name. But the songs on this album, we've got like Milk Cow Blues, we've got Till the End of the Day. This is a UK mono on Pi. We've also got I'm on an Island, which is a great Ray Davies composition there. Very kind of what he would do in Face to Face on I'm on an Island, You Can't Win. But for me, this album, you know, you can tell that it was rushed. You know, this was at the time in the 1960s, a lot of bands were put onto really quite ridiculous contracts where they had to make, you know, like 5 singles a year and 2 albums a year so that the record labels could push as much money out of them as they can in the midst of the British invasion boom in the mid-60s. And you can tell that there wasn't a lot of thinking gone into this album. That doesn't mean that like I said, there isn't there's bad tracks on this album. They're all, you know, it's R&B, you know, heavy R&B kind of stuff. And there's a few standouts, like I said. Milk Cow Blues, the cover on that is brilliant. Till the End of the Day is great. I Am Free is a brilliant Dave Davies number. But overall, this is the one where I'm not going to come back to this album that often. It comes in at number 9. Right. Number 8 now. We have Muswell Hillbillies. Now, this album is the last, I guess what people say, the peak of the Kinks here. And this is a good album. It's very different to the Kinks of before. This is much more country. I mean, Hillbillies is in the title. So there's lots of banjos on this. It's a lot softer than the other albums, but there's songs on here like Acute Schizophrenic Paranoia Disease, Alcohol on this album as well. I don't like to talk about it that much, not on this channel. This is a record community channel, but I am a recovering alcoholic, and Ray Davies really nails it on the head with the struggles of alcoholism on that song. It's a brilliant song. But again, an album that I'm not going to come back to too often, you know. It's good. It's a lot softer, like I said. It's a lot more chilled out and relaxed. And you can tell that Ray Davies is enjoying himself on this album. No Dave Davies numbers on this album at all, though, which is a bit of... I love the Dave Davies numbers, so that's a bit of a minus on my ranking here. It's also the first Kinks album released on RCA Records. So yeah, Muswell Hillbillies comes in at number 8. Definitely worth a listen. But like I said, it's a different to the other Kinks albums. Right, number 7 now. We're going with their debut album, The Kinks. This is a UK original on Pi. It's got the flip back covers, and I'm not going to pull it out, but it's on that purple mono Pi label. Yeah, this is a classic debut album, you know. It starts off with Dave Davies singing a solo out on Beautiful Delilah. It's got Cadillac, Bald-Headed Woman. Lots of great R&B covers on this album. But of course, the standout here is You Really Got Me. Absolutely brilliant. Long Tall Shorty is their first single as well on this. But yeah, you can tell it's a debut album, you know. I mean, they were all younger than me. I'm only 21, and they were all either... Dave Davies was 17 when this album was released, so you got to give it a lot of credit, you know. But yeah, you can tell this is very much, you know, a classic 1964 kind of R&B covers with a few originals splashed in, you know. Not that it's bad, it's a great album. Like I said, it's great to put on and dance to if you just want to listen to some, you know, classic R&B, some Rolling Stonesy kind of stuff. But yeah, Kinks' debut album, you have to listen to it. It's their first album. It comes in at number 7 on this ranking. Right, at number 6, we've got their second album, Kinda Kinks. Now, this is where the musicianship of the group really started to expand on their second album here. The album starts with Look For Me Baby, which is one of my personal favourite Kinks songs, absolutely. But in the drums in that song as well, from Mick Ivory, very nice. But also we've got like Tired of Waiting For You on this, Great cover of Dancing on the Street. Something Better Beginning is great. Don't Ever Change, great. Lots of great early Kinks songs on this album. So it's my favourite of the early Kinks albums. So yeah, not much else to say about this. It's a must-own. I need to get an original of this one. This is a HMV reissue on the BMG label. Sounds really good though, this mono release. But yeah, Kinda Kinks, great album. Okay, we're on to number 5 now. And this is a controversial pick. It really is, because this is the album that most people say is the Kinks' best album. And I'm not saying it's a bad album at all. I think it's one of the great album, a fantastic album. But it is the Village Green Preservation Society. Ooh, that's stinky. That's stinky. Can't believe he's done that. But no, I think there's better Kinks albums, personally. That isn't saying that this song is devoid of good songs. I mean, Last of the Steam Powered Trains is my favourite Kinks song ever. And that's on this album. Of course, Village Green Preservation Society and Picture Book and Animal Farm. You know, absolutely sensational tracks. What's the one about Walter, the second one? Do you remember Walter? Absolutely fantastic as well. Big Sky, fantastic. Johnny Thunder, lives on water, feeds on lightning. Absolutely sensational songs throughout this album. But it's not an album that I'll put on and listen to all the way through very much. There's a lot of songs from this album on my Spotify playlist and stuff like that. But I don't tend to put this album on and listen to it all the way through. You know, there's songs on here, you know, Sitting by the Riverside, I'm not the biggest fan of. Most of the second side is, I think it's good, but it's not sensational, you know. Wicked Annabella is good. Phenomenal Cat is great. People Take Pictures of Each Other as well is great. But, you know, this is a Ray Davies album where he was obviously, it's one of those soft concept albums. There's obviously a theme to this album, but it's not specifically tackled. But yeah, Village Green Preservation Society comes in at number 5 for me. I know that's a controversial pick. Doesn't mean there's bad songs on this album. They're all great in some way. It's just not one that I'd put on the turntable, listen to all the way through too much. But it does have, especially Last of the Steam Powered Trains, the best Kinks song, in my opinion. So yeah, Village Green. Now at number 4, we have Face to Face. This was my favourite Kinks album for the longest time when I was younger. I'd put this on all the time, and it's such a fun album. This starts off with Party Line, Dave Davies at his absolute best there. But other songs, this album all the way through was great. Rosie, Won't You Please Come Home, sensational. Too Much on My Mind, Session Man, brilliant. Rainy Day in June, brilliant. My favourite on this album, though, is Rainy Day in June. That is a sensational song. Of course, this has Sunny Afternoon on it as well. Not just one of the most recognisable Kinks songs, but one of the most recognisable songs of all time. And this is just such a fun album. It's a complete contrast to their early works. I mean, there's still elements of it in here, but this is sensational. I do love this album, and lots of people feel the same way. Again, need to get an original of this. This is the reissue on BMG, but the original of this one pretty hard to come by, but I'll find one day with on par with the original flip back sleeves. But there it is there, Kinda Kinks, must listen to album. Comes in at number 4 on my Kinks album ranking. Okay, number 3 now. I've gone ahead and put in Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Ground Part 1. Yeah, wow, what an album. Starts off with The Contenders, which is alright. It's not the best song on the album, but Strangers is, in my opinion, the best Dave Davies number he ever made on any studio album. Mindless Child and Motherhood is probably my favourite Dave Davies number in general, but that wasn't released on any album. That was a B-side of a single. But Strangers, I love the contrast between Ray's voice and Dave Davies, because Ray Davies, he's very, posh and kind of sings like this, and that was an awful interpretation of Ray Davies there. Dave Davies has this more kind of voice where he sounds like he's on like the verge of tears. You know what I mean? And his voice is so strong, especially on that song Strangers. Denmark Street, sensational. Get Back in Line, sensational. Lola is the standout track on the album, of course. That and Power Man, two of my favourite tracks. Top of the Pops is such a great rocker, kind of proto-punky. Not in a sense that it's very heavy, but it's got that kind of proto-punk feel. And the Money Ground as well ends off side one. The lyrics on this album are the best Ray Davies ever made, in my opinion. Got This Time Tomorrow, sensational song there. Long Way From Home. Rats, great. 8 Man, fantastic kind of reggae influence. It reminds me of Living on an Island. Power Man, brilliant. Got to Be 3 ends the album, which again is kind of banjo track. Ray Davies there. So yeah, I think this isn't a controversial pick by any means. This is one of the Kinks' best albums. They're first from the 70s, and I think this album is overlooked a lot because people tend to see the Kinks as a 60s band, when they did make at least their first 2 albums of the 70s were on par with those albums. So yeah, number 3 is Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Grind, part 1. Still waiting on part 2, over 50 years later. Right, now we're on to my top 2 now, so when I show my second favourite album, you'll know immediately what number 1 is. But at number 2, it's Arthur. Arthur, or the Rise and Fall of the British Empire. This is, in my opinion, a concept album. This isn't a kind of like implied concept album like Village Green was. This pretty much, the songs kind of sway from the start, the Victorian era, obviously with the song Victoria, all the way to 1969 when this album came out. But there isn't a bad track on this album at all, and it's one that I'll listen to all the way through. Standouts on here is Australian, Shangri-La. Shangri-La is such a brilliant track. Towards the end of the album, Young and Innocent Days is fantastic, but nothing to say. And surprisingly, Arthur, which is the title track, is probably my least favourite song on this album. But the entire first side, we've got Victoria, Yes Sir, No Sir, Some Mother's Son, which is beautifully written by Ray Davies, Driving, Brainwashed in Australia. That's one of the best side ones of all time, honestly. Shangri-La, Mr. Churchill Says She's But Hard, Like Princess Marina, Young and Innocent Days, Nothing to Say in Arthur, in the album, side 2 of the album. This is the version that has all the singles and the B-sides as well with it, so this one has a side 3 and side 4, but that isn't part of the main album. This is essential listening. Victoria was covered by The Fall, which is one of my dad's favourite bands. And this album is beautiful, beautiful. It's the first album without the original bassist. I forgot his name. Something Quiff or something. Mike Quiff? I don't know. But sensational all the way through. The Kinks. Arthur is my number 2 favourite Kinks album. which means there's only one album it can be, and it comes as no surprise that I believe that Something Else is the quintessential Kinks album. It's one of those albums very hard to come by that I think is just perfect all the way through. You start off with David Watts, covered by The Jam, but absolutely, I prefer the Kinks version of it. Absolutely sensational. Death of a Clown, Dave Davies' kind of magnum opus in a way. It's a sensational track. Two Sisters, No Return. Harry Rag is a personal favourite of mine. It's about cigarettes, that song. Tin Soldier Man, Situation Vacant. Love Me Till the Sun Shines. Another very proto-punk Dave Davies number there. Beautiful. Lazy Old Sun, beautiful. Afternoon Tea, beautiful. Funny Face, beautiful. End of the Season, beautiful Ray Davies composition. And the album ends with what is probably the most recognisable and famous Kinks song, Waterloo Sunset. There's nothing else that can be said about this album. It is one of the best albums of the 60s, one of the best albums of all time, and it is the Kinks at their absolute peak. This is a mono original with the flipbacks and the Purple Pie label, which I'm not going to get out. It looks exactly the same as that, as number 9 is, whatchamacallit, is the Kinks Kontroversy did. But yeah, there's no surprise. I think that this is the best Kinks album. It is, in my opinion, one of those albums of all time. One of the albums that you need to listen to in your lifetime. So yeah, that is my Kinks, my opinion on my Kinks albums here. Thank you for watching this video. So there they all are there. Lovely Kinks collection, pretty much Kinks collection video as well. It's the only other Kinks album I have is the Hallmark reissues and stuff. But thank you for watching this video, guys. It's been your friendly neighbourhood Gromit, and next video will be my Beatles collection. I've been putting it off. I've been doing the fandango around it, but no longer am I going to wimp out of showing my Beatles record collection. That'll be up for you by this time next week for all you beautiful people. Thanks for watching this video, guys. It's been your friendly neighbourhood Gromit, and I will see you later.